Well, we're back again for, I'm hoping, one of the last few sessions here on the 8th grade design project. This project is coming along pretty quickly, at least in my opinion. However, the coloring part always takes the longest. And so I've been working on the largest areas I could find, and then just, working my way toward the smaller, more detailed areas. Always checking back with my plan here. It saved me several times, although I think if you've been watching this demonstration, you've also noticed there's times I've had to kind of fake it along the way and fly by my instincts. And so we're simply trying to get all of these things that's on this original worksheet into a representation of like a flag or a banner that helps people understand more about us and our heritage. That's all this really is, and we're using colors and shapes simply put together carefully in order to achieve that goal. So I've got some good colors in here already in large areas. I'm going to continue on the large areas, and I'm going to work on this mountain down here. I'm furthermore going to start to fill in all of this area for the swamp and the trees up there. If by the end of the session I'm able to get to the Irish or the French flag there, that would be great. If not, I'll try to get maybe some stripes and such worked on. So let's go ahead and get my slip sheet down there so that I'm not smudging up my work. It's already saved me a few times. You can see it's kind of dirty there. And I'm going to start with this mountain, and in my it looks like it's a light brown color, at least in what I'm seeing on my original concept piece there. So, oh, and look at this. See that tiny scrap right there? See, that is supposed to be green, and I somehow looked right past that when I was coloring it in. So I don't know how. That's not like me to miss things like that. So, but that's part of what makes some of these design pieces so visually fascinating to look at, is that you see that little reference of the previous portion, the bigger portion, represented in small little gaps, and so a lot of the details make a big difference. And that's a technique that I've seen used many times, but I also use myself frequently just because it's a good idea, and right down here it's the same kind of thing. Little scraps up in here, tiny small areas of the tan up in here as well. So, but you make those, you put it into a plan, or it makes itself show up, and then you kind of forget about it, and then there you go. So here we're back, exactly the same kind of concept again, I believe here. Just trying to tuck these colors up real tight next to each other, and the representation of the mountains of the great state of Tennessee, where my mother is from. Go there frequently. So you can really get away from things in Tennessee. I've never been to some of the places where most people go, though. I have never been to Dollywood. I've never been to Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge. I've only driven through Knoxville a few times. So I usually take the country roads when I'm on my way to the big hills. And there is some really curvy, dangerous, twisty roads along the way. So many times doing work like this, where you're trying to describe things about yourself, is very reflective, and it gives you a chance to think about your own existence and your own personality sometimes, and how maybe these things have affected you. And so it's a representation of kind of the things that you believe in, really. Now, this stripe right here, I think I'm going to continue it just like it's a stripe mate over here, and continue it into the border. And I may actually have something going on here. In fact, what I'm going to do with that stripe is I'm simply going to erase this portion of it out. And that leads me to changing my mind about some things, and the thing I'm changing it about over here would be this stripe. It's crossing the border, but I think I've got a plan for these stripes now. And it's to make them the same color as the border. Now that would really take away from my embellishments of it, but I think I'm going to do that anyway, because sometimes a good idea hits you, and that's when you need to take advantage of it. And so I think that's going to be a good idea, and so I'm going to take advantage of it. Alright, meanwhile, back here, we've got to keep on with our representation of the hills of Tennessee. And move people's eyes around very interestingly in that piece of artwork there. So if you're keeping up with this instruction, you are doing a fantastic job. I've been working on all of the projects for all of the grades a few hours every day, and so I'm able to stay a little bit ahead of you, and also I'm getting into the groove of making a lot of art here myself in the E classroom, and I kind of enjoy that experience, so I'm glad I get to make the artwork. Sometimes when you're in the physical classroom, you have a lot of distractions that keep you from being able to make the actual legitimate artwork. And that's okay. That's part of the job of being a teacher. But when you're in an environment like we're all in right now, and I don't know where you are attempting to make your artwork at, but if you have a quiet area or an area where you can listen to music or simply just follow this video without a lot of disruptions, you can get a lot of thinking done. And not just that, you can make a great deal of progress production-wise on these art projects. And so sometimes it really helps just to be in an undisturbed area, watching the demonstration, following along as best you can. You don't always get precisely the same results, even if you're attempting to duplicate exactly what I'm doing, except for the content. You're still going to always have some sort of, difference in the outcome based on the product that you're using, the materials that we're coloring this with, or you may not be using the same type of colored pencils as I'm using. I'm simply using Crayola pencils right now, to be honest. And I've always found them to actually be more than adequate to do the job for many things I've created over the years. Nice firm leads that don't snap off real easy, but I've had some problems with them here lately. I've been really snapping off my violet. Okay, I'm about ready to run out of this light brown here, so I'm going to have to sharpen it up before I get into this detail work here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. That's a very rich brown color. I like very much. Oh, bumping the camera there. Sorry about that. Amateur video work. Although I took video production when I was in college, it sure has come in handy right now. Alright, back to this. It sure has come in handy. Okay, right here, in the middle of that oval is a good place to maybe start this time around. Alright, well, we'll go back to what I was doing now, which is just continuing to color in a field here. Pure color. I'm trying to kind of mix up the strike marks of my colored pencil there so I don't really get a pattern developing. That can be a little bit distracting to the beauty of your work. However, it can be used effectively sometimes if you want people to follow the strike mark on purpose, to lead their eye to some other information you're trying to reveal to them. So it can be used effectively also as a texturing idea, and of course texture is part of what we are supposed to be attempting to do here with our design work, is by adding either real texture to it, which would be something people can actually touch. Now in this case, the actual texture of our real texture of our artwork is going to be really very smooth. I would recommend against, I'd recommend against touching it if you can avoid it. It really is. It's hard to fix if it gets smeared together, or somebody should have filth on their hands when they touch it. It really can be destructive to a lot of the work that you've done. And on projects like this that are representative of yourself, well, these projects, if you can put a lot of your own heart and soul into a project sometimes, and then it can be ruined very easily just through bad, dirty habits that, if you don't keep your hands clean, or somebody wants to look at it and their hands are dirty, they can mess up a lot of artwork. So you have to safeguard this work if it means anything to you. And if it's just another class project, like something you do in any other class or worksheet, well, then it probably doesn't mean that much to you. But if it's something that you might keep for the rest of your life, and I know a lot of the parents of the students I teach were former students of mine, and they still have projects that they did when they were children. I still have projects I did when I was a student in middle school, and they're stored away in an area with a lot of other artwork in it that I've made over many years. Someday I intend to document my entire body of work, and well, I bet that would make an interesting display. Alright, so see, the large areas give you that sense of completion when you start going through the artwork, and you don't get so bogged down in the details. Getting bogged down in the details early on, at least in my opinion, is really a bad habit to get into. If you're going to do anything about the details, do it when you're doing your planning, and try to work out the details before you encounter problems. And that's still no guarantee that you won't get problems. Planning helps reduce problems, but it certainly doesn't prevent them from ever happening. But trying to come up with solutions like changing the tire, a flat tire on a car while it's in motion, that's not going to be an easily corrected mistake. So contingency planning is really a big deal, at least when I was in the military it was, but it's a good idea for people in general. So art can teach you a great deal, and making a project is an extreme learning experience, and if you're taking it seriously, you will learn things about weird things like how to color. People go, well, don't you just color? And it's not as easy as it seems. And once you figure that out, that's when you start making good pieces of artwork. When you don't think it's important, coloring is not important, or the technique that you may use in coloring is not important, and that's when you're probably going to start running into problems. But it depends on, how important your artwork is to you. If you're a student of art in high school or college and beyond, well, then artwork is very important to you, and you realize what a representation it is of your own personal belief systems, and your own personal work ethic, and your own skill to get things done by the time they're due, the deadlines. And that's an important part of making art if you have a career in it, or if you believe that you're going to have a career in the visual arts, or any art for that matter. You will have clients and customers, and these individuals will expect that when you make a agreement with them, that you will keep that agreement, and that you will produce the product that they contracted with you for by the date that they needed it. There may be a really good reason why they need it by that date, and if they don't have it, then you could really have a lot of explaining to do. So the planning is the big deal once you start doing things like this for a living. Now, we're just talking about an 8th grade art project, but your habits that you develop when you are, say, in 8th grade will carry over into your habits that you carry with you into adulthood. And so taking something like an art project, enjoying it, but taking it seriously, is one of those practices. Some people, it's their yard. They work like crazy to keep their yard looking good. And then other people, it's what their avocation, a serious hobby. But in this case, it's a class, and so I've been pretty quiet producing these e-lessons, and not just the lesson, but the actual demonstration of the project being done. So it's been a while since I've seen such a thing as this. It's really not edited. I'm not taking out parts and then coming back and showing you the finished product. We're making it together in real time, and that is a huge achievement. So if you can stay on your project very much like this video, 35, 40 minutes a day, you can get a lot of work done. Okay, speaking of which, I think I'm about done with this corner right here. That looks pretty good. Alright, now I'm going to try to find the next biggest area. I'm going to dress up all my little specks of white paper showing through there. And I think that looks pretty good. There's one. A few more right in there. Alright, very good. Alright. Now I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this area up here representing the swamps of Louisiana. I'm going to check my design concept work, and that looks like that's that jade green, that olive drab green, kind of army green color. And as I recall, that's in my collection of 7th grade pencils here. So it looks like it's got some a working point left on it, so I get up here and start checking it out. So I'm going to put that in between. What I need to do is start in such a place where I don't color in the wrong stuff. So this is actually the water. These are reflections or something in it. So I'm going to start where I know the water is at, because I want my green water. Make sure I'm in the green water. Okay. Okay, make sure I'm not coloring in some other area that's not supposed to have this color in it, and I think I'm going to be okay. Because I'm above the stripe representing the circle where all the 8 interests are at, right here, so it continues here and picks up here. So you do have to be, if you're doing complex design work, you got to be careful as you go, because you'll end up with some problems if you... I mean, sometimes it works out for you, but sometimes it sure don't work out for you. If you put the wrong color in the wrong place, it gets very difficult to correct those things. Okay, so this is that swampy cypress tree roots sticking up out of the water kind of thing going on. And here's some more of it right here above the interest circle representing my marriage. Okay, pretty good there. Alright, so this is kind of complicated work. You just have to pay attention to what you're doing if you're making complicated design work. Sometimes it's not so easy to keep track of where you're at, especially when you go from the idea work to the actual piece of artwork that you're making. It's when the stakes go up, how important it is to make sure you are paying attention. So it's a high stakes, high risk time, because if you mess up a piece of artwork you've really been working on, it makes you not even want to do it anymore. And so you got to stay focused, long attention span, and then just stay focused so you don't put the colors in the wrong areas. I hear a bird singing outside the window. It's nice to hear, calming. Alright, here we go. Some more cypress root right there. It looks like I'm going to need to sharpen my jade green pencil here, because it is just not got anything left on it, it doesn't look like. So, but that color is coming through nice. So I do. I'm satisfied with the progress of the project at this point. It seems it's representational of myself, and I'm happy to have come up with this idea, and that is going to color just fantastic. So, back right here, we'll just continue on with it. That's how these things are done. See, I see some of this. This is probably green right in here when I can see through that symbol for my father, who's from Louisiana. See, although he was all from a lot of different places. They moved around a lot when he was a child. My grandfather was a welder, and the whole group of them, of the welders, went traveling around the country building nuclear power plants. And so my father, as a child, they were on the road all the time, moving to wherever the next job was at. And then they would get involved in the schools there, and then they would work for a few years, and my grandfather would as a welder on these nuclear power plants, and then when that was done, they would move on to the next one. And they spent years doing that when my father was a child. And my Aunt Linda, my father's older sister. Alright, so I'm starting to this green, although it's the swamps of Louisiana are kind of this color, this pea green, olive drab. They're pretty, but they're a little scary too. Alright, so this is coming along. So I'm hoping your project is making good progress. If you're keeping up with the progress I'm making right here on my project, if you're doing your own project similar to this, you can use my idea for the layout if you so desire. I don't have any problem with that. If you come up with your own idea for the layout, then that's fine too. It simply still has to have all of the items that were on the worksheet that was presented at the beginning of all of this included in it, all of the various elements of art and the various principles of design. That's what we're looking for here. Okay, here's more green. Alright. Over here. So I've seen several individuals have been sending me photographs of work, and some of it is very inventive. So, and they're also working to make sure that they've got all of these various elements of principles, these design principles, included in their piece of work. And so far, I think that considering this is a complicated project in many aspects, sometimes you have to talk to your grandparents or some of your relatives in order to even get the information for this project. So it is complicated in some respects, and so it can take a while to get it done, but at the rate I've been going here myself, and it's not my first time doing this project, I'm pretty satisfied. So if you're keeping up with me on your project, then you are either putting in extra hours or you are really getting your work done. And that's fantastic, because work habits are still graded even though you may not be in the physical classroom. So you just simply have to be honest with yourself, your instructors, your friends, your classmates who you may not be meeting with at this very time in the classroom, but you will return again. So you just got to be intellectually honest with yourself and grade yourself accordingly. So the end of this project and this unit is coming up, and there will be quiz, and we will grade other aspects like the notes, and grade the project and your work habits associated with all of this. So we're going to go through the exact same steps as if we were in the actual classroom together. And so that's how I think is the best way to, when we get back together again, to just pick up, resume where we have left off at. So to me, that seems like the smartest way at this time. Now, if you're simply making this lesson up for whatever reason, well, then you can focus on your work here and do the makeup work, and that will catch you back up with the rest of your classmates who are maybe moving out in front of you a little bit. Okay, I'm going to have to sharpen this pencil again momentarily, but I gotta say, these projects look pretty good as they start to develop, and this one is no different. And so, let's see, this is some sort of a wave, so that means this piece right here is the next green, not aqua, but the jade green. In the Crayola kits it's called jade green, but it's obviously an olive color of some sort. Army green is a good description of it. Camo green. But it can be an attractive color. It seems odd when it's by itself, but in combinations with other colors it does look really quite good. Sometimes it's been included in the 7th grade color list for their design project, but that was back at another time, so I think I have maybe taken it out. No, it is part of their design color, so it is. It's been used many times, I think. Even now, in the E class, right? Alright, that is really, those little curvy lines are fantastic looking there. Here's some more. So I'm just trying to get a bit of a slow moving, flowing water representation here with the swamp motif going on in here. The reference to the swamps of Louisiana. Sometimes you just gotta think these things and put yourself, your mind, in the same location as what you're trying to describe to people. And get pretty good at it. This, though, this green is really quite rich. It doesn't show up on the camera quite as vividly, but when it's colored opaquely, it's really quite attractive. And then when you put it up against other colors, especially, it does really ring out on its own a little bit. Alright. I'm looking for any little specks of paper showing through. I don't see any right there. So let's take a look at that. That is good. That is fantastic. Okay, so it looks like I just need to continue this over there, maybe on the other side of the tree where the tree sticking up out of the water is at. So it always helps periodically to take a moment to step back and look at your work. When you're working really in close contact with it, many times it's difficult to get a good look at it. So it helps if you just get up and step away from it, or have somebody else hold it up for you while you look at it. Now that's a bad idea for things like paintings, but for drawings it's not a bad idea at all. So this jade green is doing its thing, at least in this particular project. And there's a tiny little bit of cypress, and oop, there's another little scrap of that green right there in between the roots. Tiny scrap of green right there between the roots. And those little details that make it all slightly more visually interesting. Some of them are very subconscious, meaning that you wouldn't even notice them, but you would notice if they weren't there. That's what's funny about visual artwork. It's not meant to jump out and hit you in the face sometimes, but you would notice if it was missing. You might not be able to describe exactly what it is that's missing, but you would notice it. Okay, let's see here. This goes right in here between these ripples in the water. Alright, so for the 8th grade classes, we're making good progress on this one as well. And I may someday just take this project to a whole new level here. I'm going to have to sharpen up a pencil again. But the different kinds of greens really are getting my attention there. I'm really satisfied with that. Let's hold this down so it doesn't flash in the light. Don't forget to use your slip sheet so that you don't smear this work up that we've been working so hard on all this time. Starting to wonder what my stripe is going to be. These chevrons that pass through everything. I'm going to have to maybe come up with one uniform color for that. Because my banner or flag here is pretty complicated, and it's kind of what we would say as narrative or allegorical, meaning it tells a story of sorts, and so it's using a lot of visual symbolism in order to achieve that. So I'm wondering where this is going to go. It may not come out looking precisely like a flag or a banner. It may look like some sort of crazy story of some sort, like it's meant to be interpreted by people. I don't know. Sometimes I'll just have to wait and see what happens, but I'm pretty much sticking to my plan to create the work that I planned, and I've only made a few deviations from that plan. So if you've been watching this project develop along the way, if you've been working along with me, then you'll know what I'm talking about here. I've had to change periodically and alter my plan a couple of times, but for the most part I've been able to stay with my plan, and it has saved me some time. Alright, that's looking very good. I'm very satisfied with that. Okay, I'm just going to keep at it then. I'm going to have to hold this down, I suppose, here, because it seems to make the camera flash a lot. Look at that little scrap of green that's going to have to show up in there. There's another little scrap of green going to have to show up in there. Okay, and this. So if I get through these large areas today, I'm starting to sense the end of the project coming along. So I hope you're succeeding on yours at the same rate that I am, but you can always do work outside of class time if you feel the need to. But if you dedicate about 35 or 40 minutes a day to it, I think you're going to find that you finish in more than adequate time with pretty good results. Alright, it looks like I'm almost done with this aqua green. I may put some over in here. I may have to do a little bit of redrawing over there, because that one particular section has got an awful, whatever color it's going to be, it may be a little bit too much of it. Here we go. Alright, let's look for any opacity issues. Don't see any. Don't see any. The ripples look all pretty good. This is something we'll also be checking out during our painting unit. A lot of times we smear together colors on the painting unit in order to get an effect like rippling water, and it's usually pretty exciting. It's a high-risk operation also. You try to make something and you've already made a painting that looks pretty good, and then you do these things to it that might ruin it. So it's really, it's kind of exciting in a sort of a stressful way for some students. Now see, over in here in this large area right here, I'm going to have to do something about that, because I think it needs to have some of the water showing through. So I think what I'll do is I'll pass this along like right in here, oh, there's the end there for the moment. Okay, let's see. So if I did that, and this came along in here like that, see. Now I could maybe put a little marking in here. That would be so if this is the white area, and this would be green, and this would be green, so that means that this right here okay, now let's see how this is going to work out. So if this is green and this is all part of the water rippling along in there, then I need to just very carefully logic my way through this. So if this is green, then this would be green, because it's showing through the ripples and the water lapping up against things. That means that then if this is green, let's try this then. I have to do a little more drawing to make it work right. So if this is green, swamp water green, this is swamp water green. Let's see how this works out. So if this were white and this were green, let's see, this is white for right now. And that means this would have to all be green. So that means I'm going to have to make a ripple in here. It goes like this. And it hooks into this. Comes along like this. Okay. So sometimes you just gotta really pay careful attention to what it is you're attempting to do, so that you don't wreck the logic of it. People wonder what's up with your logic. They say that doesn't make any visual sense. And in this case, it's starting to make some visual sense. Okay, so now if this is green and this is white, this should be green, or there should be something going on in that greenness. So this is all white in here. So this